What's up, future OTs? Welcome back to Hey Future OT. And today we are talking about everyone's favorite topic. How do I jump my score by 30, 40 points? We're talking about skyrocketing your score over the 450 passing mark. So, if you're looking to increase your score so that you can pass the exam the next time, then you are in the right place. And I know it sounds like a major jump, but trust me, it's absolutely possible, and students do it all the time. I don't care if it's your first time taking the exam or your eighth time taking the exam. My goal is to give you the strategies and the tools to literally transform your score. So let's do it. So when I'm working with students, a lot of times we're focusing on two areas of improvement that are essential for you to pass the exam. We're looking at their content confidence and we're looking at their clinical reasoning. You need to not only know the material and memorize the material, you have to understand how to apply the material to the exam questions and to real life situations. So when we're talking about making that big jump, we have to focus on both. But today, we're going to talk about how you can use your clinical reasoning to really increase your score by 30 or 40 points. It's not just about studying harder, my friends. It's about studying smarter, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So I know how frustrating it is when you're literally doing everything you can and you're still not getting the results that you're working so hard for. So I want to share with you a story from one of my students that I worked with who was in a very similar situation. He had taken the exam multiple times and his scores were just not where he needed them to be. And after his second attempt, his scores actually dropped from a 447 to a 435. That sucks, right? You can imagine the defeat, the frustration. And honestly, this is a very familiar situation to me. I get emails like this every single day. But here's the thing, right? Like after feeling, stuck, he sent me this email that literally brought tears to my eyes. And I'm going to read it to you guys. Okay. So here it is. So he says, first off, Kim, I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I found out Thursday that I passed my exam. My scores went from a 447 to a 435 to 475. I had one private session with you between the 435 and the 475 score. Thank you so much for believing in me. But more importantly, thank you for teaching me the practical tools that I needed to pass in just one session. At the end of our session, I asked, how many more sessions do I need? And you said, maybe just this one. I can't believe how much of a difference it made. I truly appreciate your honesty and that you didn't just try to gouge me and see me as an opportunity for more money, but you actually helped me get the results. Literally, he'd been trying for so long, right, to change his approach and to study harder, but nothing was sticking and he was just stuck. And then literally after one session, he broke through that barrier and his score jumped 40 points. That's one session. And it's not a fluke, right? Like, do I believe he was working really hard? Absolutely. But when we fine tune our strategies, when we shift our mindset and we focus on what really matters, I'm telling you, you can make the same exact jump, the same exact breakthrough. So what was the secret, right? What did we do to really increase his score? It wasn't about him studying more or trying to cram all of this content in. It was about one simple question that I gave him that changed everything. So I want you to take your notes out and I want you to write this question down. Instead of asking, what is the question asking me? I want you to write down, what is the question testing me on? What is the exam question testing me on? So many students email me and they're saying Kim, I'm trying to figure out what the question's asking me, right? And I get it. The questions are tricky. They feel vague at sometimes. Sometimes they feel super complex. And it's not just about trying to get to the best answer. It's about understanding what the question is actually testing you on. And what does that mean? Well, if you're only trying to come up with the best answer or the most important answer, right, you're missing the bigger picture. The question is actually testing your knowledge on a specific concept, on a specific impairment. It's trying to see if you understand what a patient actually needs in a given scenario. And again, if you're being too vague and you're just saying like, oh, what are they asking me, right? You're not going to be able to pick your answer with confidence or with accuracy. So this is what I want you to do. Instead of focusing on what the question is asking, you're going to write down that question. What is it testing me on? And you're going to write this down on your noteboard or write this down, on the piece of paper when you're taking your practice test. And you're going to say, is the question testing me on a concept, an OT concept, like a frame of reference or maybe the OT process? Is the question testing me on a specific impairment or condition, right? Or deficit? What exactly are they testing me on? Because guys, it's your job to make sure you are proving your knowledge to the exam. So of course, if it's your job to prove your knowledge, every time you approach a question, knowledge needs to be at the forefront of your mind, okay? So I want to try this, right? We're going to actually post an exam question on the screen, and we're going to do this together, and we're going to shift our mindset from what is the question asking to what are they actually testing me on. So let's do this. Let's read this question together. So an 18-year-old high school track team member stumbled over a hurdle during practice, resulting in a fall onto the right hand. X-rays conducted at the doctor's office confirmed a closed distal radius fracture. Following cast removal, the client was referred to occupational therapy due to challenges with school-related tasks and restricted passive range of motion of the wrist. Which orthosis is most appropriate for this client? So, I know when we start seeing like upper extremity injury questions, we start to panic a little bit, especially if it's a weaker area. But I'm telling you, just this small shift in your mindset can really transform how you approach these questions. So again, we're not going to ask, right? Like, what is this question asking us? No. We need to get specific, right? We need to ask ourselves, what is this question testing us on? What is the impairment? What is the injury that it's actually testing us on? So when you look at this question, it's obviously testing us on our knowledge of a distal radius fracture. But it's not just about finding the best orthosis about distal radius fracture. It's about you understanding distal radius fractures and the related issues. And this is where your content confidence comes into play. What aspect of distal radius fractures are they testing you on? Because remember, with distal radius fractures and any injuries, there's so many factors. There's edema, there's pain, there's limited range of motions, there's difficulty with functional use, there's, different protocols, there's different levels of healing. So you have to make sure you're pairing what do I know about distal radius fractures and the related factors. And again, this is where the content really matters. So in this question, it's about distal radius fractures with restricted range of motion. So this question is literally testing you on, do you understand how to treat limited range of motion with an orthosis? And just simplifying and getting that clarity, it reduces how scary that question can feel, right? Because again, when we're looking at questions and we're talking 180, 190 questions, and we have 4 hours if you have the standard time, and every question that you come across, this is literally your opportunity to pass this exam. This is you increasing your score by every single question. So we need to reduce the anxiety, we need to reduce the fear, we need to reduce how overwhelming these questions may feel. So by using this strategy and by having that content confidence, you're going to understand the concepts more deeply. So when you see restricted range of motion and you see distal radius fracture, you know exactly what your answer is supposed to focus on. It's not about guessing. It's about being clear on what they're testing you on and applying your knowledge to that question. So what's the takeaway here? When we reframe our thinking during the exam, when we get clear on what the question is testing us on and not what the question is asking us, it brings us so much more confidence, so much more clarity, and we're able to literally skyrocket our score. And remember, literally, they can only be testing you on some kind of concept or some impairment or some kind of deficit, or maybe it's a phase or a stage of a disorder. My private students, like, when they use this strategy, it comes so naturally for them. Literally, we'll be working through questions, and the first thing they say is like, Kim, oh, they're testing me on this. Oh, Kim, they're testing me on extensor tone. I know exactly what to do for that. Oh, Kim, they're testing me on the top-down approach. Oh, Kim, they're testing me on how to use an adaptive approach for someone with, I don't know, fine motor deficits, whatever it is, right? We get rid of the overthinking, we get rid of the guessing, we get rid of the assuming, and we literally focus on what that question is testing us on. So I want you to try this in your studies. I want you to try it when you're taking practice tests, okay? And this one simple strategy, right? This one strategy. We didn't go through like this list of A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, highlight this, highlight this, highlight this. No, it's not that complicated at times, right? So reframing your thinking and really focusing on what this question is testing you on, you can completely change how you approach questions. And with that clarity, you're going to feel so much more confident and you're going to be able to answer questions more correctly so that you can skyrocket your score. You got this.